everybody here. Some people, they talk about the future. Jeff Burningham is investing in it and trying to understand what it means to stay human inside it. I'm Mick, the Doctor of Digital, and this episode is about human potential in an age of artificial intelligence, not as hype, but as judgment, not as prediction, but as something being tested in real time. At one point, Jeff explains why the last book written by a human isn't really about AI at all. It's about whether founders, investors, and leaders have actually articulated what makes their thinking valuable in the first place. And with that, I want to welcome Jeff to the program. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm good. Thanks, Mick. It's beautiful to be with you today.
Well, likewise, I wanted to get you on tape here a little bit and talk to you because you got a really fascinating background, and I really want to dig into a little bit. Before we get into the book or your investing or the companies you've built, I'd like to start a little bit earlier. You've started, scaled, and invested in dozens of companies across real estate, venture, and technology. When did you first start noticing that the real difference wasn't just execution, but how people think about when the stakes are high?
Yeah, I think it's all about people. As a venture investor, as a team builder, actually played football and basketball growing up, all growing up through high school, played a little bit in college. And as an entrepreneur, it's all about the team. In fact, like you said, I've invested in hundreds of technology startups here in the state of Utah and around the country. And the number one thing that you're always looking for as a venture investor is the team. It's about the team. And sometimes I say to founders, unlike the stock prospectuses, which we get, which say that, past success is no indication of future performance or whatever, I think oftentimes the best indicator of future performance within individuals is their past performance, what they've done. Obviously, we can change and grow and transform. That's happening rapidly here in the age of AI. But someone who's established a set of habits and patterns that can lead to success is someone I like to invest in. And let me just say, one of the rules we had as well is not to invest in solo founders. So
No.
people that were just doing it alone, because this is a hard road. Existence, life is hard alone, and so are startups. It's hard to build something by yourself.
Very interesting to go back to the sports and early in life because I had the good fortune of doing that and knowing how to win and lose gracefully. These are really valuable lessons, and it's definitely a team effort because you can't do
Yes.
anything without a team. Very insightful. Before the $5 billion real estate platform and venture portfolio, what first pulled you into building and investing?
Yeah, I understood as an undergrad in college, my senior year, that entrepreneurship, at least for me, but I think for most people, is an accelerated path of learning and growth. So that's what pulled me in. Is it felt like learning on the fly. It felt like an accelerated path of learning, growth, and transformation. And that's what I've always been interested in, even as a 20 something. I'm now a 49-year-old, 40 something. That sounds better than 49. Uh, um, like I'm always been interested in transformation. The last book written by a human is all about how humanity should, I hope, and will transform in the age of AI. So that's been that's been a thread in my life that has always been true. And that's the reason at a high level, that's why I decided to be an entrepreneur rather than the other thing I was looking at was strategy consulting. So my senior year at BYU, I was flying around the country interviewing with like Bain and McKinsey, and I had a technology startup on the side. This is 19, no, this is, sorry, in the year 2000. And so, yeah, that entrepreneurship has been an accelerated path of learning and growth for me. That's what attracted me to it.
When you've operated across real estate, venture, and tech, when did you realize that there was a pattern behind the companies that actually worked?
I think there's a pattern to everything in life. so much of our lives are lived in patterns, even unconscious patterns, patterns of trauma and hurt. The human condition comes for us all. And the human condition is one, I would say, of woundedness. We are all
Mm,
wounded. And so I've always been interested in patterns. I think I've been good, even maybe without knowing it, at pattern recognition. I think one of my superpowers is kind of vision. I went into technology really early on before the dot-com bubble and burst, and we survived through that. So we had an outstanding exit. I started a real estate firm before the Great Recession,
mm.
but again, survived through that
Yeah.
luckily and grew something quite large. I
Mhm.
ran for governor here in the state of Utah, I think, as you
Right.
know. The
Yes.
global pandemic is not something that I saw coming. I lost on a very large scale, like a public stage. My entire state, watched me lose. So that was a good experience to have the little platform of success that I had built for myself kind of
Mhm.
disintegrate beneath my feet. And then I was just able to free fall into the, let's say, nothingness, quote unquote, of existence and what is, and write this strange book, which if you would have told me 6 years ago when
Mm.
I lost out of the governor's race that I'd be an author writing about AI and humanity, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said no way. I just don't even think that's in the top 10 list of possibilities. So when we surrender to the flow of life, when we live in presence and non-resistance, anything is possible.
Mm. You've talked about some things where things didn't go so well, but there's also a flip side to that because you've backed companies like Spotify, Podium, and others. So those are better experiences. What did you see that most people miss?
Yeah, I think I saw underserved markets, opportunities for disruption that were apparent to me. With Spotify, obviously the music industry was changing, streaming was becoming the thing, and when I first invested in Spotify, there wasn't a clear leader in that regard.
Mhm.
In terms of Podium, I remember meeting Eric and Dennis, the two founders of Podium. They were right out of undergrad at BYU. So they were here local. I live in Provo. And I just recognized a hunger and a desire in them to change the world, to make a difference. And obviously, Podium started in just kind of simple reviews for SMBs, which was
Mm.
something that was needed. About 15 years ago when we first invested, roughly 13, 15 years ago. So I think it's having a nose for where the market is headed,
Mhm.
having a gut feel for an intuition for where things are going. And again, I've certainly used that. I still make an investment or two a month, so I'm still an active investor, but I'm really applying that even more to the community that's building around the book and its message. And I would say that, it's critical as I continue to write. I'm writing a second book to
Mm.
really be plugged into the muse, let's say, and or your intuition, your gut feel, and into the field of awareness and consciousness that is constantly swimming around us.
Well, so you appreciate the background because that really helps, but let's dive into the book a little bit. So your book, the last book written by a human, is a provocative claim. What are you arguing underneath that title?
Yeah, it's not like the book was launched August of last year, so 9 months ago. I didn't think it would be the absolute last book written by a human. I sure hope not. But it was meant to do two things. Number one, to make people pause. And could this be the last book written by a human? Or what is the author trying to say here with this provocative title? What about our humanity are
Mhm.
we losing or are we letting go of? What pieces of our humanity are we outsourcing, you could say, to the quote unquote the machine? So that was one thing. The second thing was, have you read it, Mick?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah, I'm so glad you have. I'd love to hear how you experienced it, but it's very human. It's
Mhm,
very vulnerable. It's like the opposite of AI. I think that via AI, the obstacle becomes the way here for humanity. The machine becomes the crucible in which we transform and evolve. And that's powerful. And so it's, we can almost recognize AI because it's flat. When we read something that AI created or see something, it's a little flat. It's almost too perfect.
mhm,
It's not human enough. And my book, the last book written by a human, as you know, Becoming Wise in the Age of AI, is very human. It's very raw. It's very vulnerable. And in fact, it had to be because it's really at its core a call to us to rehumanize, to lean into the beautiful mess of humanity and what it means to actually be alive, because that actually is what differentiates us from the machines. It's not intellect. Surprise, surprise.
yeah.
Intelligence is being commoditized. So, what comes after intelligence? Wisdom, discernment, clarity, embodiment, love, unit, all these human factors. That's what matters most.
Mhm. What does human judgment do that AI still can't replicate?
Yeah, there's so much. One just quick way. I feel like I could talk about all these questions, as you know, for like
Sure.
30 minutes, but we only have 30 minutes total. So, one quick way. So I'll just give a sprinkling for each thing. We are embodied. AI is not embodied. In fact, you could think of AI in one form as intelligence in search of a body, some
Mhm,
form of intelligence in search of a body. We have a body. There is so much wisdom within our bodies that we don't listen to, by the way, mostly. Um, we don't listen to it. We ignore it. We put it aside. We say, no, that can't be right. And so, one of the ways that humans can become wise, one of the main things that obviously differentiates us from AI is the wisdom that is found in a human organic body. And it's one of the three universal teachers that I talk about in the book that we need to lean into in this digital era and age that we're living in.
It's a very interesting point about being embodied. So I worked on my dissertation had something to do with dance and working with dance experts. They say something along these lines,
Cool.
and they say, "Listen to the body," which is a really interesting thing. We usually say the
Absolutely.
brain or the
We need
heart.
to listen to the body. We don't listen to it.
Yeah,
And that's to our own detriment.
yeah. Where do you think people overestimate AI, and where do you think they underestimate it?
Hmm. I think that it's very easy to begin to think that AI feels, that it's felt the grief of loss, that
Mm,
it's felt the ecstasy of love, that it can really even understand the passage of time, at least as we comprehend it as human beings, getting
mm,
older, etc. I think we overestimate its human nature and or qualities. It is meant to be a mirror to us, and it's meant to keep our time and attention, like to keep us on there as long as possible. So it will mirror how we are, which can be a powerful tool for us. But I just, the machine is a tool, and it's a tool that should be pointed on human flourishing rather than human division. And if you say, if there's one thing that your second question was, what do we underestimate? And
yeah.
maybe I'll just stick with that. It's that I don't think we fully appreciate or comprehend yet. It's becoming more and more clear daily, but I think it will continue to be so. We don't, the massive opportunity that lays before us with AI to punctuate and help human flourishing. Now, the flip side to that is also the massive potential for human division and destruction that AI will ultimately pose. I think that's becoming a little more clear to the general population as we go and as we have movies and more people like myself are talking about it. But I think we underestimate the power for good and or bad. And so of course, my work right now in building the after intelligence community and writing the last book written by a human is to try to harness the massive opportunity for human flourishing that AI could provide.
One of the concepts that you discuss is clear thinking. So I'm curious about that. So, what does clear thinking actually look like in practice?
Yeah, I think a meditative practice is really important in 2026 or whatever form of, whatever that might look like for you. What I would say is the human nervous system was not designed to be on constant alert, to have constant, buzzing and badges and notifications. This is not the way that we were designed to live. So, um, clarity can only come when we slow down and look inside. In the last book written by a human, I talk about my little climbing my little mountain of success, if you remember, Mick. So I talk about, whatever. I build all these large companies, won all these awards, blah, blah, blah. I get to the top of the mountain and I say, there was nothing at the top but a cold, howling wind, even void and more void
Hmm.
on top of that. And it's only in that aha moment of clarity or of stillness that I realize there's nothing, I can't look for answers outside of me. External validation, things to make me happy, success, awards, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The answers we're looking for are inside of us. They're in every human being. And we only can look inside if we become still and quiet. So I think without opportunities to do that on a daily basis, it's very hard to be clear thinking in 2026 because we're constantly barraged with information, news, alerts, updates. Oh no, the sky is falling, this is happening, another war, et cetera, et cetera. Gosh, it's time for everyone to develop a practice of stillness and sitting with themselves, and like I said, kind of turning the mirror inside of themselves, taking an internal selfie and looking at what you see and working on that. So that might be too philosophical, I don't know, but that's what I think.
Well, it's not too philosophical. In fact, it really hits home because going to the top of the mountain to me sounded very Nietzschean because here's a person who got to the top of the mountain and looked inside. And yes, he realized some of those things as well. So it definitely sounds philosophical and not too philosophical. Just it really
Mm,
hits home. So I'm curious,
I'm
what
glad.
changes when you turn your lived experience into something permanent, such as in book form?
Yeah. Well, a book can never be taken back. So every word that I wrote is out there. The book has been a national bestseller. I receive a note or two or three every day from someone I don't know or someone who's read it that has been touched by it or their life has changed or whatever. That means so much to me. I viewed the book as a little piece of art, my little offering to the divine. I just offered my whole heart and soul to the divine. And when I say the divine, I'm including each one of us. So, anyways, that's a lot of joy. However, not everyone has loved the book. And some of those closest to me, I grew up in a Christian context in a Mormon household. My parents struggled with the book. There have been some leaders in my church that have been concerned about some of the things I wrote. And so there's been some pain that's come as well. And I think that's when you might be doing something right or you might be speaking the truth or sharing some real art is when there's a little bit of a dissenting opinion. And that's, let me just say, and I hope I'm answering your question, that's not for the faint of heart. We're on a heroic journey, and this hero's journey involves trying to understand our unique gifts and then offering them to mankind, to our fellow humans, to our neighborhood, to our church, to our, whatever it is that we believe in. And so, uh, laying our lives down for our friends. I think that's what we're trying to do here. That's what we need to do in the age of AI. We need leaders in government and in uh, religion, and certainly in business, that are willing to sacrifice maybe their own best interests for what is better for the collective. This is a collective game that we're playing, a collective experience actually that we're having. I think much more than we usually realize in our day-to-day lives. It's me versus you, or me and them, or us and you. No, it's all of us together. And so that's the game that I'm trying to point us towards in the book. I talk about it as the new game. I talk about the old game, which to me feels like it's crescendoing and kind of plateauing and gonna fall off a cliff. And then there's the new game. You could say the new game of being and awareness that we get to lean into together. At least I hope so.
Both within the LDS church and outside of it, there is a truth, and the truth shall set you free. So you're still aiming for the truth, so people can appreciate it. Some do, some don't. That's just the way it is. I'm curious then too about founders. And do you think most founders are underestimating a book as a way to anchor their thinking?
um, I think writing a book is a consecration of love, and it's a tremendous. And this is, like, I had become addicted to doing. I tell a story in the book about how I was running a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. I was investing a fund or two, tens of millions of dollars in venture capital. I was on 20 boards, a young father of four, blah, 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 blah. And I decided to go get an MBA on top of that, which I could only obviously do on nights and weekends. And it was such, I mean, I'm sorry, it was such a stupid decision. I don't know why I did it. And, well, actually, I know exactly why I did it. It's because I could, by doing more, I could be more, right? No, wrong.
Mm.
It's not in our doing um, that we become more. And so, am I answering your question? I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it's I think it's coming to that peace and clarity. And I think remembering that the quality of our doing is always tied to our being. So I had lost connection with my being because I was way too busy. I think other executives, CEOs, startup founders can understand this feeling
Sure.
of being coming disconnected to your being because there's so much to do. The problem is that the quality of all of our doing is intimately connected to the quality of our being. And that's something that I think writing a book helps you slow down and remember, is that, I can write something special here, even if it's only special to me or whoever's going to read it. If I slow down and really give it my time and attention, I need to ignore all the other pressing concerns and focus just here, right now. It's really a good forcing mechanism for presence. And so the truth is, when I launched the book last August, of course, I wanted everyone to read it. I think everyone should read it, but not everyone's going to read it. A lot of people have, but it didn't really matter the outcome. I was already, I could say, and I felt at peace with this, I already had won just through the process of writing. I had already won. Again, whether, you know, 10,000 or 10 million people read it, or 10, I had already won just because I had been transformed and changed through the process. Did that answer your question, Mick? I'm sorry. I
It
feel like I'm
sure does,
rambling a little
because
bit. Yeah.
writing and being peaceful and quiet brings clarity. So, yes, I think absolutely, and a lot of founders would benefit if they were writing more, hence the question. But I'm also excited now you got a second book. So, a second book, and that's got to be something different. So, what's the thought behind that?
Yeah, it's still coming together, and I don't want to like share too much, but I'll say it's a continuation of the last book written by a
Okay.
human. And it's a continuation of the subtitle, Becoming Wise in the Age of AI. One way that you could think of what I'm writing next, number one, it will be, well, it doesn't matter. You could think of it as the rules to the new game, or like how the new game is played, or I hate to even use the word, I'm putting in quotes here, one, but how we excel at the new game of being in the age of artificial intelligence. It's going to be a little more practical, a little less memoir. I think your first book, or my first book, I was just kind of getting a lot of stuff out and working through a lot of things. I think it was interesting, and people have loved the stories in the book, but it was very personal. This book will be probably a little less personal, maybe a little less about me, and more about how humans excel in the era of artificial intelligence. And that will come out, sometime, I think, fall of next year. So actually a year from now, or even a little more, just
Mhm.
because publishing takes a long time.
Yeah.
And writing takes a long time, and it's a little bit of well, again, it's an artistic process. So one of the things that I really struggled with in the first book was I tried to have like these deadlines and this plan, kind of like a CEO or founder would in business, and that's just not how it works. It's an organic, artistic process,
Mhm.
and it really needs to be felt into via, I would say, like flow and heart and intuition. And so it doesn't roll out, in that manner. And so anyways, I'm wiser now. I know that's the case when I'm feeling the muse with me, when I'm feeling in tune with the universe, when I'm receiving inspiration, I go right to the book. I kind of stop whatever I'm doing and go right to the book. And then when I'm not feeling it, I try not to force it too much. I'm thinking about it. I'm working things out in my mind and my heart via my dreams, via recreation that I enjoy, mountain biking or wake surfing or whatever it is. I'm working it out as I'm doing other things. And then I can come back clear and be a vessel to kind of transmit through, write through, be written through. You could almost say that's how the first book felt for me. It's almost like it was being written through me. I mean, I
Mhm.
was doing it, but I was also observing it, if that makes sense, happen.
It does. It makes total sense. Channeling it in some way. I think a lot of creative people talk about this. Say if you're a musician, songwriter, they're channeling something that's coming to them and they're just the vehicle for that message. So I'm curious as we kind of get to wrap up, what would you say founders and leaders who are listening, what should they focus on right now?
Hmm. They should focus on their heart space. I mean, this is a massive question, as you know, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
should focus on their humanity. They should lean into their humanness. Look in the mirror, the cosmic mirror that AI is. It's just providing a reflection to us, to you, and then take inventory of what it's showing about you, what it's saying about you, what it's saying about all of us, and then look inside for answers. Make sure that you're sitting in stillness for at least 10 minutes a day, doing nothing. But the overarching idea is to lean into your humanity. I think those will be the leaders of tomorrow and the future. They'll be the most human among us, not the most powerful, not the most technological savvy. They'll be the most human. And so I would encourage CEOs, founders, all people to double and triple down on their humanity and the gifts that come from, like I said, this beautiful mystery mess of existence. I think we're going to be reminded of those things, how precious those things are. We're going to be reminded via the machine, via pain that AI brings to us, and it's going to be an interesting time ahead. I'm looking forward to it. I'm optimistic, but it's not going to be easy.
Interesting balance there to optimistic, but it's not going to be easy. It's like life, and it's like any kind of business that you're running. So we've talked about background. I appreciate all the wisdom and the insights that you provided. So how can people get a hold of you, the book, and how do they reach out to you directly?
Yeah, I appreciate this, Mick. I hope that everyone listening will buy a copy of the last book written by a human. You can listen to it on Audible. It's
Yeah.
found anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Walmart, Target, Barnes and Noble, et cetera, et cetera. If you prefer listening, if you prefer reading, take a note and then reach out to me. I wrote the book to be a conversation starter. And so I want to hear how you experienced it, what you thought about it. If you want to learn more about the community we're building, we're about to launch a free course here. It's the end of May. Sometime in June, we'll be launching a free course. You can just go to my website, Jeff Burningham, that's burning with a ham.com. And you can stay in tune there. I'm also on social media. I have very mixed feelings about all you have to do is run for governor, and you have very mixed feelings about social media. There were several years where I was off of social media, but I've come back just to I'm trying to meet people where they're at. So I'm at Jeff Burningham, on LinkedIn and Instagram, Substack, all the places. So whatever your favorite is, you can find me there. Follow me, join the conversation, and contribute to the community that we're building. We would love to have you there.
I've also sat in, so I appreciate it as well. And I can personally verify that. Jeff, thank you very much for your time, all the insights, fascinating book, fascinating ideas. I appreciate you taking some time out and speaking today. Thank you.
Nick, it was my pleasure to be with you. You're a beautiful soul, and I appreciate all the good work that you're doing in the world with your podcasting, et cetera. So thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you. Hopefully you've enjoyed the program and you want to support it. So I also want to thank those people who support the Doctor of Digital podcast and a couple of volumes I have on Amazon. That's both Burning America and also On Track, Ian Hunter. Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you a little bit. Hope you enjoy the program. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and contact me directly as well on LinkedIn, always available. Until next time, this is the Doctor of Digital signing off. Deus Vult.